Chapter 31.
What's the deal with your obsession with cramming me into cramped spaces? Draco whispered sharply to Potter. Is this some kind of fixation of yours? Potter paused as if pondering. Well, I did spend a fair portion of my life in a cupboard. Not amusing, Potter. Draco spat, while Ron seemed content to serve as a barrier between them. His finger rose to his lips, silencing them as they squeezed into the cabinet, listening carefully to the noise of many feet shuffling above them and the loud slam of the staff room door. The scent of dusty cloaks surrounded them as they peered through the fabric, watching the professors straggle into the room. Some wore expressions of confusion, others were visibly anxious, though Draco took satisfaction in seeing Severus maintain his usual collected demeanor. Then McGonagall entered. The event has occurred, she announced to the hushed assembly of staff. A student has been taken by the creature into the chamber itself. Flitwick emitted a tiny shriek. Sprout clamped her hands over her mouth. Severus clenched the back of a chair with great force and asked, "How are you so certain?" Draco's efforts to protect Ginny Weasley had come to nothing. Not that it mattered much. There seemed to be more than enough Weasleys to go around. The heir of Slytherin, McGonagall continued, her face pale, left another message, just beneath the initial one. Her skeleton will linger in the chamber for eternity. Professor Flitwick broke into sobs. Who is it? Madame Hooch queried, her voice shaking as she collapsed into a chair. Which student? Luna Lovegood, McGonagall said, and Draco smothered his mouth to stifle a cry. We'll need to send the students home tomorrow. Hogwarts is finished. Dumbledore always said. The staff room door flew open again, admitting Lockhart. My apologies, I drifted off. Did I miss anything? He seemed oblivious to the animosity in his colleagues' glares. Severus approached steadily, his words laced with spite even before voicing them, but Draco could hardly feel, let alone savor, the intent behind them. His fingers began to lose feeling. Perfect timing, Severus declared. Just the person we need. A girl has been captured by the creature, Lockhart. Taken into the Chamber of Secrets. Your moment has arrived. Lockhart's once confident visage transformed into a mask of dread, his eyes pleading for compassion that was unlikely from Severus. Exactly, Gilderoy. Sprout chimed in. Last night, weren't you saying you always knew where the chamber's entrance was? Lockhart stammered. Yes, I distinctly heard you mention you were certain about its contents, added Flitwick. Did I? I can't seem to recall. Seems you told me you regretted not dealing with the beast before Hagrid's arrest, Severus said. Didn't you assert that the entire incident was mishandled and that only you should have had control from the start? Lockhart darted glances around at his stern-faced colleagues, resting longest on Severus, feeling betrayed. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Then it settled, McGonagall stated. Tonight is opportune for you to act. We'll ensure the corridors are clear. Proceed and confront the creature independently. Finally, the chance for action. Lockhart desperately sought help, but none was forthcoming. Severus appeared more likely to continue the mockery than to extend any aid to his admirer. Draco hadn't seen him this outwardly satisfied in quite some time. Very well, Lockhart finally conceded, sneaking a last longing glance at Severus before making a show of renewed resolve. I'll be preparing in my office. And he departed. Right, announced McGonagall, nostrils flaring. Let's ensure he's no hindrance to us. Heads of houses, inform your students that the Hogwarts Express will return them home in the morning. The rest of you, assure no students are outside their quarters. The faculty gradually left one after another. Draco scrambled from the cabinet as quickly as he could, gasping for air. Ron and Potter emerged, both looking troubled and awkward, even more so when Draco sank into one of those heavy chairs, clutching the table's edge like a lifeline. He drifted just a step too far, finding himself in the chair formerly occupied by Severus. "Draco?" Ron inquired, concern evident. "I apologize if you're truly claustrophobic, but we had to." "I'm all right," Draco managed between breaths, squeezing his eyes shut tightly as tears trickled down, the wheezing more pronounced. He gripped his chest, and Potter dashed to him, laying a gentle hand on his cheek, a touch Draco never felt deserving of, especially not sitting in Severus's chair. Clenching his eyes more firmly, Draco slid to the floor from Severus's chair, irritably wiping his face with his robe sleeve, his nose clogging as his breathing faltered. Opening his eyes, he glared at Ron and Potter settling beside him on the floor, with faces marked by genuine concern. "Relax, you fools," he panted. "I'm not about to kick the bucket," as Potter held him, as if he already were. "What's happening, Draco?" Potter inquired with earnestness, his green eyes barely distinguishable to Draco, blurred and mingled with his glasses, like water disturbed by a pebble. Normally, physical contact was unwelcome when he reached this state, but Potter remained an exception. "Just a condition," Draco forced out, as Ron conjured a hanky to dab at his forehead. "It's breathing issues. My mind acts up. Give it a minute to." The words "go away" wouldn't form, especially if it meant Potter would release him. "Why do you two even care? You just never listen." "I'm sorry," Potter said, intensifying his grasp on Draco's face, demanding attention despite the blur. "I've never expressed it out loud, but I apologize." "I'm truly sorry for doubting you, Draco." He nudged Ron, jogging Draco's memory of their first encounter with amusement. "Yeah, I'm sorry too once more," Ron interjected, though Harry was the one who turned me around, earning a harder nudge. "What?" "Truth. You always seemed sure, and Harry here is the local Draco Malfoy authority." "Shut up, Ron," Potter snapped, suggesting Draco might have relished watching them squabble, had he been calmer. The two of them huddled beside Draco, who took longer than usual to recover. They chatted about nothing in particular, Ron tending to his face while Potter comforted him, until even Draco's weary body started protesting against the floor's discomfort. Potter couldn't stop mumbling apologies out of the blue, confessing guilt for doubting Draco's innocence and feeling responsible for Draco's breathing troubles by cramming him into the cabinet with them. After some time, Draco managed to catch his breath enough to think clearly again. He questioned softly, "It doesn't add up. Luna Lovegood's from a pure-blood family. Why would the basilisk target her? While Ginny Weasley, also a pure-blood, was affected by the diary, that wasn't the case with Luna." "Is she, though?" Potter inquired, puzzled. Draco realized it was probably unreasonable to expect them to know a seemingly random Ravenclaw first year, regardless of her future role in implicating his father. "Indeed," Draco confirmed, "and unless we act soon, she might end up dead, assuming that hasn't already happened." A steadfast determination settled in his mind, despite his previous weariness. He felt accountable. If he hadn't intervened, Ginny Weasley would be facing this peril instead, and Potter and Ron wouldn't be so passively looking after him. Luna's life was in jeopardy, and it was his meddling with a timeline that put her there. He had to ensure Potter took action. "You know," Ron chimed in, "we should probably tell Lockhart what we know. He's aiming to enter the chamber. We could inform him of where we suspect it is, and that a basilisk's inside." That must have been Lockhart's downfall. Better to leave it at that, keep the status quo, and involve him. A moment's decision on mercy could turn the tide. Malfoys weren't renowned for their compassion. Yet Draco recalled Severus's quarters adorned with golden roses. "What's the point?" Draco snapped. "He's useless, a fraud, and Hermione's absence won't change that. Lockhart couldn't handle what's down there any more than Justin Finch-Fletchley could. Let's move. We need to find Myrtle and save Luna." Potter and Ron stared at him, bewildered. "Wow, Draco," Ron remarked, "you're sounding quite like a Gryffindor." "It's just being sensible," Draco retorted sharply. "We've wasted enough time, and the longer we delay, the higher the likelihood Luna's already gone. Potter led them swiftly down the dim passages toward Myrtle's bathroom. Draco's knack for directions faltered amidst his anxiety. As they bypassed the writing on the wall, he clutched Potter's sleeve, unwilling to bear the looming words of Luna's demise weighing on his conscience. Another casualty, another misstep that he couldn't afford, especially since Luna had been a gentle prisoner. She had spoken kindly and patiently with him, despite being captive. "For crying out loud, Draco," Ron shouted as they hurried ahead. "You really are upset, aren't you? Do you actually know Luna?" Draco froze at Myrtle's bathroom entrance, realizing he couldn't articulate his sense of duty towards Luna. He blurted the first explanation that came to mind. "If you must know, she's my cousin, all right. Let's go." "A cousin?" Ron queried, skeptical. "You've never brought her up before." "Our families don't exactly mingle," Draco explained tersely, "especially since her father edits the Quibbler. The love goods aren't our type. Now, can we get a move on? Heroics await, chosen one. Move. You too, Ron. I didn't save both your skins in that forest for my cousin to die." All right, said Potter, as Draco tugged him into the bathroom by the collar, Ron close behind. Moaning Myrtle perched on a cistern, greeted Potter with, "Oh, it's you," and addressed Draco with, "And the handsome little blonde from Halloween. You never visited, dear." One chat, and they thought I was Slytherin's heir. Couldn't afford to risk it again. "Myrtle," Draco apologized, "it's been a chaotic year, but we need your help now, please." "What do you want?" she simpered. "To learn about your demise," Potter asked. Myrtle's expression grew gleeful, as if Draco had cornered Gryffindor boys under the mistletoe for her. "Ooh, it was terrible," she recalled with a morbid delight. "Right here, in this exact stall. I hid because all of Hornby mocked my glasses. I locked the door and cried, then heard someone enter. They spoke strangely, perhaps in a foreign language. What struck me was a boy's voice. I unlocked the door to tell him off, and then Myrtle's face expressed climactic anticipation. I died." "How?" Potter prompted. "No idea," Myrtle declared theatrically, relishing being in the limelight. "I just recall seeing enormous yellow eyes, my body stiffened, and I was drifting away." She gazed dreamily at them. "Then I came back, determined to haunt Olive. She soon regretted mocking my glasses." Draco hadn't been entirely oblivious. He'd listened to Myrtle's rants about Olive Hornby enough times. "Could you show us where the eyes appeared?" Potter requested. "Somewhere there." Myrtle gestured vaguely towards the sink before her cubicle. It looked like any regular sink. They inspected every nook, even underneath. Then Potter spotted it, a tiny snake etched on the side of a copper tap. "That tap's always been broken," Myrtle remarked cheerfully as Potter attempted to twist it. "Harry," Ron nudged. "Say something. Parseltongue." But Potter concentrated deeply, eventually uttering, "Open up," in plain English. Potter glanced at Draco, who simply shrugged. "Trust you to clam up with a snake watching," Draco teased. Neither first year seemed to grasp the just enough to feel affronted. "Want me to summon another snake?" "Don't even think about it," Ron protested, but Potter, encouraged by the jibe, turned back to the marking. He hissed, transforming from an ordinary second year into something uncanny, otherworldly, even before the tap brightened, spinning open. Then the sink slowly descended, revealing a human-sized pipe, not a very dignified passage for Malfoy, but unquestionable if rescuing his cousin was at stake. Ron gasped as Potter donned the composed authority he assumed when negotiating with Aragog. "I'm going down there," he declared, resisting the urge to cheek kiss him again. "Me too," Ron affirmed, and Draco nodded. "Need no persuasion this time," he agreed. "No relative of the Malfoy clan is going to meet their end in a place that reeks of a lavatory entrance." Just like last year, Ron asserted with an attempt at cheerfulness, his earlier coughing fit behind him. Draco found solace in this as his breathing calmed. So, we just slide down this time, right? Right, because that turned out great, what with the devil's snare snaring us last time. Hold on. Potter, what do you think you're doing? Damn it. Draco grumbled, letting himself slip into the chute before second-guessing. Although the descent took longer than the trapdoor debacle, it was equally undignified. A slithering, grimy tunnel. Imagine a Malfoy entangled in the depths, and not even with a sinister errand to justify it. Yet the assurance came from Harry leading and Ron trailing behind, the latter clumsily signaling his position with thumping noises that comforted Draco slightly. Beats hanging with the spiders any day, Draco shouted somewhat manically, but managed to elicit laughter from his companions before the tunnel abruptly deposited them in a slimy pile. Instinctively, Draco's hand darted for his wand, ensuring it was as straight as ever. He drew it without thinking, reluctant to stow it away again. We must be a great deal below the school, Harry speculated, his voice bouncing off the walls of the passageway. If nothing else, he could thank the Gryffindors for an unusual, if unwelcome, tour of Hogwarts' lesser-known sights. Likely beneath the lake, Ron guessed, peering into the gloom of their surroundings. Draco nearly complimented Ron's unexpectedly sharp observation. It stood to reason considering the dankness, unless the basilisk naturally left trails. All right, onwards, Draco decided. All that's important is knowing Luna Lovegood lingers somewhere ahead. Lumos, Harry murmured, his wand sparking to life. Let's move, he urged, and they commenced, their footfalls echoing along the slick ground. Lumos, Draco intoned, with Ron shortly following, though the twin beams barely illuminated more than their immediate area. Instead, they merely elongated their murky silhouettes into foreboding shadows looming across the shiny walls. Remember, Harry cautioned softly as they treaded ahead, at any hint of motion, shut your eyes immediately. A more insightful individual than Draco, aware of the presence of a basilisk, might have devoted some energy to investigating spells that could counter the deadly gaze. He wished the Weasley twins had already invented that instant darkness powder, unless using it against a basilisk was futile. Startled, Draco cried out when something crunched beneath him, instinctively shielding his eyes and nearly dropping his wand, until Harry's steady hands jerked his own free. Relax, it's just a skull, Harry sighed, Draco feeling acutely like a pale imitation of bravery, akin to a Neville Longbottom moment. Despite this, embarrassment drove him more than fear of his father ever could. Loads of bones around, Draco remarked as nonchalantly as possible, pretending he hadn't been the only one to scream. Harry's wand lowered to reveal a path scattered with bones. It was not reassuring in the slightest. Draco let Harry lead as they approached a bend. Harry, look, Ron whispered urgently, gripping Harry's shoulder. Draco instinctively retreated behind Harry. I'm a thinker, not a fighter. They require me back here. My value warrants preservation, standing as the party's sole source of intellect and charm. Harry and Ron paused, observing with intensity, and eventually, Draco's vision adjusted to the formidable silhouette ahead, a structure that seemed uncannily basilisk-like. Hold on. Where on earth was Harry's sword? Had he just neglected to inform Draco, like those mysterious voices? Would Draco have claimed a grand hero's sword himself, had he not sidetracked Harry from his true purpose? Possibly asleep, Harry whispered, glancing back. Draco barely contained a jibe about whether Harry had brought Hagrid's enchanted flute. Cautiously, as if a seasoned warrior, Harry advanced, wand held aloft. Its light revealed a monumental snakeskin, vivid green, sprawled, and vacated on the tunnel floor. The beast that left it must have stretched at least 20 feet. Under different circumstances, it might be admired. With some imagination, and perhaps a squint, it resembled a heap of Christmas wrapping paper near Snape's tree. Much of Draco's life revolved around the idea of Snape's infallibility, with rare exceptions like when Snape encountered a giant snake. But now, even Snape might concede that the Chamber's beast could very well be a basilisk. "Blimey," Ron murmured feebly. "On the contrary, this is advantageous," Draco asserted, projecting confidence he lacked. "It's handy. We can estimate its size and shape. This shedding suggests recency. Note the eye height." Draco gestured broadly at the skin with his wand, imparting little clarity but providing Potter and Ron some comfort, which sufficed. "All right," Harry replied, determination etched on his face, identical to when facing Voldemort in the courtyard. Harry led them past the discarded skin valorously, though Ron hesitated, warily glancing back as if expecting it to animate. Draco held silence through the long, shadowy passage, only increasing his apprehension. Occasionally, his eyes flicked to the familiar curve of his wand, or to Harry's resolute profile, even to Ron on Harry's other side, who appeared more terrified than Draco, yet whose steps continued unwaveringly. Nearing another solid wall, Draco nearly bit through his lip to prevent a cry, with two entwined serpents carved upon it, emerald eyes glittering. He had loathed each step of the journey, but now he almost wished it perpetual. "Here," Harry paused, facing Draco, but the words that emerged were perplexing. "Draco, do you remember catching the snitch versus Ravenclaw?" "Huh," Draco responded, and Ron seemed equally bewildered, pondering the relevance. "Yes, naturally, why?" Harry bit his lip, gathering resolve. "When you nearly collided with me and transfigured the snitch for me. Was that a jest because of what I shouted before, or do you?" "I've no clue what he's referring to," Ron interjected, and Draco forced amusement. "Neither do I," Draco conceded. "Let's keep moving, Potter." "Choose a better time when my cousin isn't on his deathbed," he responded. Draco marveled at Harry's ability to stride forward with such confidence, as if fate itself enveloped him in that moment. An overwhelming sense of wonder pressed heavily upon Draco when Harry spoke in Parseltongue flawlessly. Under Harry's command, the snakes retreated, the walls split apart seamlessly, its sections vanishing from view. Though Harry appeared shaky, he guided Draco and Ron through the opening without glancing back.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!